Oh my God, does Italian Prime Minister let France have it? With both barrels. Oh, I hope she does this to Trudeau. She's got to go after that little weasel Trudeau who tried to embarrass her and basically Italy and Italians. I mean, what the hell is going on in this world? So, here, in the beginning of time, when God said, "Let there be woman," this is what he had in mind.
Watch here as she explains how France continues to exploit poor African countries, which then adds to Europe's illegal immigration crisis.
Questo è un bambino che lavora in una miniera d'oro in Burkina Faso. Il Burkina Faso è una delle nazioni più povere del mondo. Per il Burkina Faso, che ha l'oro, la Francia stampa moneta coloniale. In cambio pretende che finiscano nelle casse del tesoro francese il 50% di tutto quello che il Burkina Faso esporta. L'oro che questo bambino si infila in un cunicolo per tirare fuori finisce per lo più nelle casse dello Stato francese. Allora la soluzione non è prendere gli africani e spostarli in Europa, la soluzione è liberare l'Africa da certi europei che la sfruttano e consentire a queste persone di vivere di quello che hanno.
Sweet Mary, Mother of God, that woman is magnificent. She said the solution is not to take the Africans and bring them to Europe. The solution is to free Africa from certain Europeans who exploit it. The left, who pretend to care about poor people and the flood of illegal economic migrants into Europe, should be making that precise same argument instead of making people smugglers rich and painting anyone who objects to illegal immigration as racist.
Oh, Canada, our home and beep land. There's some words, you just shouldn't be saying. And as a matter of fact, if we say, "Oh, Canada," are we putting Canada on a pedestal above other countries? Isn't that, oh boy, we got to get some woke people out there to investigate this and see how we can become better people, because that's the whole thing behind wokeness, is to make everyone more accepting, more loving, more caring, more everything. It's just about, you're going to be on a green field rolling, little bunnies jumping around, butterflies and birds chirping. It'll be like something out of a fairy tale. Oh, geez, I shouldn't be. Maybe, I don't know, a flying angel tale? Again, words can be harmful to some people, but not to me or you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, across our beautiful country of Canada, our friends south of the border in the United States of America, all around the world, the known and unknown universe. Welcome back to your favorite Angry Canadian on the 7th day of June 2023. There's just over 200 days left in this year. Well, that's some exciting news. Just over 200 days in this year. Gosh, I wonder if we'll make it to next year with everything that's going on in the world. And, isn't it like, once again, ordinary people, I consider myself ordinary, we got no say in this. We have no say. No say in who's going to war, how long it's going to happen, how bad it's going to happen, or what's going to happen with the next outbreak of viruses. The WHO now is planning to have a global passporty thing. I'll get into that in another video. But in this one, I want to talk about climate change, global warming, because that is an existential threat to all of humanity. Oh man, we're not going to survive. Oh. So what can we do about it? Well, we got to get rid of all fossil fuels. No more gas, no more oil, no more coal, none of this dirty stuff. We're just going to use clean energy, and we're going to make the world use clean energy. Hello, wake the F up. Wake the F up. It ain't going to happen. But they will sure as the hell make our lives miserable with all their restrictions and rules. Okay, so originally I planned to use some video clips from Itchy Boots, Nora Lee, this Dutch girl that's been riding around the world on her bike, and she's now going in West Africa. She has gone through the middle of Africa before. She's traveled from the Antarctic, basically, all the way up to the North Pole, Alaska, with her motorcycle. Unbelievable challenges, going through jungles where the roads are virtually non-existent, where bridges are, you take your life chance whenever you cross one. And in West Africa now, she's been going across rivers and dugouts and canoes, which they use for ferries. And anyway, this isn't the video that I was hoping to show, because her videos are from 2023. And when you see that, you see the state of those people and what they're trying to do. Like here, they're digging for gold because jobs are virtually non-existent. You know, even with a university degree, the guy couldn't get a job. So he is, a gold prospector. And there's carts going around in West Africa in cities pulled by donkeys and horses. And, it's not the world we are living in. No, they don't go to the fridge and get a cold drink out just because they want it. They don't go to the malls. They don't do the things we take for granted. And I think that's one of the biggest problems with our Western society, especially, I do dare say, in North America, where things are taken for granted. I mean, little kids throw a fit at Christmas if they don't get their toy. There's families that, have to get a bigger house because we got 2 kids and they don't want to share a room. Whereas, in not that long ago, it wasn't uncommon to be sharing rooms. But now, it's everything has changed, and we want to push the changes caused by climate change onto these people. So stay tuned.
Is that I am so tired of talking about woke culture. That's why it's gone too far, more than anything else. And I thank the other speakers for making the points for me, because it means I don't have to reiterate the point that no, free speech is not some right-wing reframing of whatever. It's the foundation of Western civilization. Upon this civilization is built, and the Enlightenment values that led to it. I don't have to make the point that has been made by far better people in the past, that the only way to deal with the problem of racism is to treat people on the content of their character and nothing else. And the fact that woke culture seeks to overturn that is a new form of racism that we must all oppose. It means also I will not use this opportunity to say I told you so, as someone who spent the last 5 years warning people in the West that if we continue to erode our culture, if we continue to undermine our confidence in Western values, that our enemies like Vladimir Putin will seek to capitalize on it. I will not make any of those points tonight, at all. Instead, I am not going to talk to those of you who already agree with me, which I imagine is most of you. I'm not going to talk to you because I imagine after everything you've heard tonight, you're going to vote for the proposition. I'm going to confess I will take your vote for granted. Tonight, I am the Labour Party and you are the Red Wall. Now, I want to talk to those of you who are woke and who are open to rational argument. A small minority, I accept. Because one of the tenets of wokeness is, of course, that your feelings matter more than the truth. But I believe in you. I believe there are those of you here who are woke, who are open to rational argument, so let me make one. We are told that your generation cares more than any other about one issue in particular, and that issue is climate change. We're told that many of you suffer from climate anxiety. You wish to save the planet. And for tonight, and tonight only, I will join you. I will join you in worshipping at the feet of St. Greta of climate change. Let us all accept right here, right now, that we are living through a climate emergency and our stocks of polar bears are running extremely low. I join you in this view. I truly do. Now, what are we to do about this huge problem facing humanity? What can we in Britain do? We can only do one thing. You know why? This country is responsible for 2% of global carbon emissions, which means that if Britain was to sink into the sea right now, it would make absolutely no difference to the issue of climate change. You know why? Because the future of the climate is going to be decided in Asia and in Latin America by poor people who couldn't give a shit about saving the planet. No, thank you. No, thank you. It's going to be decided by poor people in Asia and Latin America who don't care about saving the planet. You know why? Because they're poor. Because they're poor. I come from Russia, which is not a poor country, it's a middle-income country. 20% of households in Russia do not have an indoor toilet. What they have is an outdoor toilet. And I don't mean one of those nice portaloos that we get here. I don't even mean a Glastonbury portaloo. I mean a wooden shack with a hole in the ground that holds a collected fermented memory of the last 10,000 visits. How many of you are going to go home tonight and say, let's rip out our bathroom and erect a Siberian shithouse in the back garden? And if you're not, why should they? 120 million people in China do not have enough food. I don't mean that they don't get dessert. I mean they suffer from malnutrition. That means that their immune system is breaking down because they don't have enough food. You're not going to get them to stay poor. Imagine you're Xi Jinping, the leader of China. When you were 10 years old, there was a revolution, a cultural revolution in your country, and people came and they put your father in prison. Your mother had to denounce him. Your sister killed herself. And you, no longer enjoying the protection of your formerly powerful father, were sent to a village where you lived in a cave house. And here you are, decades later. You have clawed your way up the bloody and greasy pole of Chinese politics to be the undisputed supreme leader of the very Communist Party that destroyed your family. And you know that the main thing you have to do to survive and to stay in power is to deliver the one thing that the people of China want: prosperity, economic growth. Where do you think climate change ranks on Xi Jinping's list of priorities? 1/3 of all children who live in extreme poverty in the world live in India. That means they are starving and dying of preventable disease. Now, about 15 months ago, my wife got pregnant. Not me, because we're old school. And for 9 months, we talked about what our boy would look like, what he might do when he grows up. We looked at baby scans and videos on YouTube about what the fetus looks like at 9 months and 12 months and 20 months. And eventually he was born. And he is this cute little bundle of joy. He's cuter than about 80% of puppies. Right? Now, if you said to me that I had a choice, either my son had a serious risk of starving or dying from a preventable disease in the next year, or I could press a button and he would live. He would go to school. He would bring his first girlfriend home. He'd go to university and graduate and become a woke idiot. And then he'd get a job and get married and have children and become a man. But all I have to do is press this button. And for every day of my son's life, a giant plume of CO2 is going to get released into the atmosphere. Now, you're all very young, and most of you are not parents. Let me tell you something. There is not a parent in the world who would not smash that button so hard their hand bled. You are not going to get these people to stay poor. You're not even going to get them to not want to be richer. And so, I put it to you, ladies and gentlemen, there is only one thing we can do in this country to stop climate change, and that is to make scientific and technological breakthroughs that will create the clean energy that is not only clean, but also cheap. And no, thank you. And I want everyone to get home on time today, which is not going to happen. And the only thing that wokeness has to offer in exchange is to brainwash bright young minds like you to believe that you are victims, to believe that you have no agency, to believe that what you must do to improve the world is to complain, is to protest, is to throw soup on paintings. And we on this side of the House are not on this side of the House because we do not wish to improve the world. We sit on this side of the House because we know that the way to improve the world is to work, is to create, it is to build. And the problem with woke culture is that it's trained too many young minds like yours to forget about that. Thank you very much.
This man spoke a lot of truth, but he's not the only one. People that have followed what's happening are aware. All you gotta have is common sense. No, just like with vaccinations, you couldn't do the world. There's too many people all over the place. And are you thinking that you're gonna put the burden of climate change, global warming, on the very poorest? And at the same time, also the middle income in Western nations are bearing the brunt of it. And where's the protest? For Pete's sakes, get out, people, and let your voices be heard while you can still talk.
If you thought the Green New Deal was epically moronical, you will not believe the insanity happening in Ireland. Farmers there are revolting against a proposal by the government to kill 200,000 cows, all to meet the EU's climate goals.
Elon Musk called out the absurdity, saying this really needs to stop. Killing some cows doesn't matter for climate change.
So who do we call? Matthew Wielicki. He left his job as a professor at the University of Alabama over the school's push for equity in science. But instead, he now writes Irrational Fear on Substack and calls out all the quackery. Matthew, it's really great to see you. Talk about this push in Ireland, because they're like, oh, it's just a modeling document to be included in the deliberative process. But this is the kind of insanity going on in the name of fighting climate change, is it not?
Yeah, thanks, Dagan. Thanks, Brian, for having me on. It's always nice to talk to you guys. It really is it's hysteria. I mean, what's very interesting about it, too, is that the EU is now almost 1/3 reliant on getting their meat from Brazil. And so instead of actually growing their own livestock and producing their own material for their own demand, they're going to be relying on other countries that don't have any of the policies that we have. They're going to be shipped across the oceans. This is completely absurd. If the actual goal is to reduce the amount of greenhouse gases, this will have no reduction in greenhouse gases at all.
Matthew, you make a really excellent point talking about the role that fear plays in all of this. And one of the things you say is that when you talk about things like this with younger generations, what you're doing is scaring them to the point that they can't even think rationally about solving maybe the real problem that we have. When you're talking about slaughtering cows to stop climate change, it strikes me that you've already gone over that line.
Yeah, absolutely. And I saw it with my students at the University of Alabama, the anxiety, and especially during COVID, their anxiety was so high. I mean, I just felt so bad for them because they were just constantly fed all this catastrophizing, every weather event, every flooding event, every natural variability in the weather system becomes more evidence that the planet is doomed. And they had no motivation. We're robbing them of any ambition. We're just scaring the bejesus out of them. And it just makes no sense, because if we look at the scientific data to support any of this stuff, it's really flimsy. And a lot of times it's not even there. But the media and even some of these real prominent climate scientists, they run with this hyperbole. They over exaggerate a lot of the findings. They rely on models that are essentially can give you any output that you want depending on how you tweak the inputs. And then they just, tell everybody that it's gloom and doom. And if you kill some cows, we won't have another hurricane or something like that. It really is, it's crazy. And the mental health effects for the young people, I think, are really something that we don't talk enough about.
Fear equals control, control equals power. It's how they get people to fall in line with the insanity and the immorality of it. Matthew, you wrote about, we were talking about cattle and the food supply. Nearly half, and this is on your Substack, nearly half of the world's population relies on synthetic fertilizers made from fossil fuel. What about putting our food supply in jeopardy because of this illogical climate crusade?
Yeah, so I think this is a feature, not a bug. If you can start to attack the food supply, you can say, look, this is a result of climate change, when really this is a result of poor policies. The Haber-Bosch process is the way that we make ammonia, and it uses methane, natural gas, as one of its initial products. And without that, about 4 billion people on our planet wouldn't have sufficient food. The fact that we have this beautiful technology to make fertilizers such that we can increase crop yields to a point where we can feed 8 billion people on the planet, I think is a testament of human ingenuity. It's amazing. And they're going to directly attack that. And when we start to see that there is food insecurity going on, they won't blame their policies. What they'll blame is climate change. And so this really appears to be a feature of the whole propaganda machine as opposed to a bug.
Matthew, your rationality is a breath of fresh air in this. Thank you for bringing it to us today. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Brian.
Now, you gotta excuse my English, but what a bunch of horseshit these experts, these politicians, these people who think they know best have created in the world. If you see everything, climate change, global warming, if you want to believe it, if you want to believe that food is poisoning us with sugar and all the other stuff, everything like that, the experts promote it. I remember when the cigarettes, doctors did advertisements for cigarettes. Now they've changed their mind. Now it's beef. And it's not now. It's been talked about for a while. They want to get people off of eating meat. Maybe just once a week is good enough. You don't need to eat meat every day. By the way, I've experienced life like that back in Hungary, back in the old days, because I'm that friggin' old. I remember when we only had meat once a week, and possibly Sunday a chicken soup or a chicken paprikash or something. But it wasn't every day. Eating was a lot different, and I would have to say probably a hell of a lot healthier. But now I like my meat. I like beef. I like a steak. I like pork chops. I love battered chicken. KFC, I don't care where it comes from. I like all that. And what power or right or in their right mind do politicians think that, well, we're going to stop that. We're going to put farmers out of business. Their kids won't have a farm to inherit. We're going to do all that because we know best. No, you don't.